off first, and then
So I literally just went out and did speed shots and just action shots, and my aim wasn't to get the coolest shot or the most epic street photography shot I've ever seen in my life. I'm just coming out and learning, bro. Like, this is a fairly new camera for me, the X100V, and I'm shooting everything in manual. Like, it's got very good tactile functions for this. Like, it's got the dials on top for your ISO, for your shutter speed. You can flick it into manual shooting mode on the side, and then you can just straight up use the focus. It's focused by wire, but you can use the focus, which is I found to be fairly accurate with the electronic meter. And then you've also got your aperture control ring. So everything completely tactile. I do this just to get up my kind of skill level with shooting off of reflexes, you know, trying to set up and then, what do I want to use a bokeh to highlight this subject, or to bring attention to the subject, or am I trying to get the whole scene in? What would my exposure be given, you know, or how much noise do I want it to be as crisp as possible by lowering the ISO to as low as I can go, or, you know, and then it's not just a thinking and setting it on an automatic setting on your camera and hoping. You're literally having to flick and use your hands as for tactile feedback and implementation of what controls you want, what settings you want. And a lot of the automatic settings in cameras today are phenomenal. Like, white balance is really starting to come along well, and you know, your ISO, and if you aperture priority even kind of things. But the full manual experience is going to develop your skills as a photographer, no doubt. And I kind of pay homage to street photographers of old, and I know it's a culture in street photography to use full manual everything, manual lens, manual settings, film even, because of the necessity of being manual being your only option. only ever using manual modes, then you're going to learn a lot about why you have these different settings in the first place and how they impact your image, and what how the camera works. How the camera works, dude. It's just my opinion anyway, but I've certainly found it in my case. See, with something like wildlife, I'll always shoot with autofocus. I'll use other manual settings, but you ain't going to be doing manual focus on a 400mm lens or whatever, right? So my wildlife shooting, I always shoot autofocus, but with my street, just because I'm trying to dial in, get it where I can have that feedback, shooting full manual, just to watch channels that you're inspired by, and maybe even buy some books that teach you about different skills for composition, or for how you can improve your street photography or anything like that. I'm learning, man. As I said, I'm shooting in a rural town. I haven't even tried out any street photography in a bigger city yet. I'm just trying to get a bit more comfortable with people's reactions, and how intimate, or how seemingly intimate, I can get with getting more comfortable, as I said, with reactions. So if they're cool about it, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I can get more comfortable being in that shooting environment. To compose your shot first, and kind of wait for a subject to walk through that frame. I didn't do that at all in that 20-minute clip. I was more or less just like, get out, get it done, quick action snapshots, and just trying to play around with maybe some leading lines, and really kind of simplistic rule of thirds, composition tips, or composition rules, whatever. And sometimes you get pretty lucky. Sometimes you can do, especially if you're into cropping and that, you can kind of crop something in that's quite nice and get away with it. But if you have a bit more time and you're willing to compose the shot first, get into a nice frame, or where you see the light working like really nice, and set up your shot and then wait for a subject to kind of move through that frame. And obviously it's not going to be like a abandoned whatever property or whatever. You're going to maybe do it in a place you'd expect someone to come through, a footpath or something like that. You don't really have the luxury, or I guess you do if you wanted to, but I don't really go out maybe at sunrise or sunset when doing street photography in like this rural town, because I kind of just get out when I have the time, or when I feel motivated. So sometimes you got to deal with just harsh light, and one way you can do this is by looking where light and dark or light and the shadows can kind of play well, or to use them to highlight your subject, or to use the lines of the shadows to lead to your subject. Something that I've seen other street photographers talk about who are in cities is the difficulty at times to remain stealth, or to be more subtle. The problem in a rural town is that you're guaranteed to like stick out like a sore thumb, and people certainly will notice you taking photos. And if I'm ever confronted, one thing I do, something I do use is, if I can find them, do use like just business cards, and I'll just say, look, I'm a photographer, or I have these social media platforms that I use, and here's my business card. And it just makes you seem a little bit more professional, and that you're doing it with intent, and there's a rhyme and a reason for it. Whereas if you kind of take a picture, get seen, don't smile, just keep looking, or look away and conceal your camera, or run. If you run, don't. Those are all fairly suspicious, guilty looking things. And so the best you can kind of hope for is just to smile, look with intent that, yeah, I'm totally doing this, and I want to do this, and it's not weird that I'm doing this. It's come out with a bit of confidence. And if you get confronted, hey, what are you doing, man? What are you taking a photo? Oh yeah, you know, whatever. I'm into street photography. Look, here's my business card. You can check out my Insta on there. And yeah, or you can even, you know, and then try to de-escalate, I guess. I highly doubt it ever, you know, get to a level of, maybe, who knows. But just try to de-escalate and talk with intent and your reason for doing it. That's pretty cool. And yeah, certainly a necessary skill or a necessary thing to do. This guy. So other tips is just to watch channels that you're inspired by, and maybe even buy some books that teach you about different skills for composition, or for how you can improve your street photography or anything like that. I'm learning, man. As I said, I'm shooting in a rural town. I haven't even tried out any street photography in a bigger city yet. I'm just trying to get a bit more comfortable with people's reactions and how intimate, or how seemingly intimate, I can get with getting more comfortable, as I said, with reactions. So if they're cool about it, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I can get more comfortable being in that shooting environment. I think that's important. Yeah, so obviously a rural town's far more difficult, especially if you have literally nothing to shoot with. Then you have to look like landscapes or something, or hope someone walks past, or yeah, it gets a little more difficult, because obviously a city environment is almost a necessity, really, or it's certainly the expectation when you think of street photography. What kind of city this, city that. So, but you certainly can shoot street photography in a small rural town. You're just going to have these problems that you need to overcome. But yeah, pretty much that's it. I had fun. I want to see what kind of shots I got and work it out. But yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see how this video goes.